Imagine you are standing in a forest. The temperature is minus 15 degrees Celsius. Snow is falling. You have no shelter, no fire, no phone signal, and no one knows where you are. You have exactly 72 hours before a search team might reach you. What happens to your body? The answer is not what survival movies tell you. It is stranger, more brutal, and in some ways more remarkable than anything a script writer invented, because your body has a plan. It has always had a plan. That plan was written into your biology hundreds of thousands of years ago, long before humans invented coats or heated buildings or the concept of calling for help. The question is whether you can stay alive long enough for that plan to work. Hour 1 begins the moment you stop moving. As long as you are walking, your muscles generate heat. They are extraordinarily good at it. A moving human body produces roughly 5 times more heat than a resting one. But the moment you stop, the cold begins its work. And cold is patient in a way that nothing else in nature is. Your skin temperature starts to drop within minutes. The blood vessels just beneath the surface constrict. This is not a failure. This is your body making its first calculated decision. By pulling blood away from your skin, your body is protecting the core. Your heart, your lungs, your brain. In physiological terms, this is called peripheral vasoconstriction, and it is one of the most elegant survival mechanisms in the human body. The cold feels like an enemy, but your body is already fighting back on a cellular level. By hour 2, your core body temperature has likely dropped by 1 degree. You are shivering. This is another calculation, not a malfunction. Shivering is involuntary muscle contraction, your body generating heat through movement when you are too cold or too exhausted to move deliberately. It burns calories at a significant rate. Research from the University of Utah has shown that intense shivering can generate heat at roughly 2 to 4 times your basal metabolic rate. Your body is burning its stored energy to keep you alive. But here is the first critical variable. How much energy do you have stored? A lean adult carries enough glycogen and fat reserves to sustain significant cold stress for many hours, sometimes days. But those reserves are finite, and in the cold, they deplete faster than in any other survival scenario. A person stranded in the snow in cold temperatures may burn 2 to 3 times their normal daily caloric intake simply maintaining body temperature. Without food, the clock is ticking from the moment your first meal was finished. Hour 6. You have found partial shelter, perhaps under a tree or against a rock face. The wind is the real enemy here, more than the temperature itself. Wind chill removes heat from your skin surface at a rate that can make minus 15 feel like minus 30 or colder. A windbreak, even an imperfect one, can be the difference between losing heat faster than your body can produce it and reaching a fragile thermal equilibrium where survival becomes possible. Your fingers and toes are now numb. This is peripheral vasoconstriction, reaching its extreme. Your body has made a decision at a biological level that your finger is expendable. Your brain is not. Blood continues to be redirected inward. In prolonged cold exposure, this can eventually lead to frostbite, the actual freezing of tissue in the extremity. But in the first hours, numbness is survivable. It is your body protecting the parts of you that matter most. By hour 12, if you have not found a way to generate sustained heat, your core body temperature may have dropped to 35 degrees Celsius. This is the clinical threshold for mild hypothermia. The symptoms begin to appear. Your thinking slows. Decision-making becomes impaired. Research by a physician and wilderness medicine expert Dr. Peter Hackett has documented that cognitive decline in hypothermia begins earlier than most people expect, often before the person experiencing it is even aware it is happening. You may feel strangely calm. You may feel paradoxically warm. This is a known and deeply dangerous phenomenon called paradoxical undressing. As hypothermia deepens, the blood vessels that had constricted to protect the core begin to dilate again. Blood rushes back toward the skin. The sensation is of sudden, intense warmth. Many hypothermia victims have been found with their clothing partially removed. They were not irrational. They were responding to a real sensation. The warmth was real. It was also the beginning of the end, because the dilation of peripheral blood vessels accelerates core heat loss dramatically. Hour 24. You have survived a full day. If you have managed to maintain a windbreak, kept moving periodically to generate heat, and avoided the trap of paradoxical undressing, you are still in the fight. But your body is changing in ways you cannot feel. Your metabolic rate is beginning to slow as a deep conservation response kicks in. Anthropologist Wolf Schiefenheuvel, who has studied cold exposure responses in traditional cultures, has documented that the human body has a remarkable capacity to reduce its own metabolic demands during sustained cold stress, essentially doing more with less. You are burning less fuel per hour than you were at the start. This is your ancient cold weather programming activating. Your ancestors who survived ice ages did not do so by accident. They did so because the human body carries genuine adaptations for surviving extended cold exposure. Brown adipose tissue, a specialized form of fat that generates heat directly through a process called thermogenesis, is more active in cold-adapted individuals. Your body is not simply losing the fight against the cold, it is constantly recalibrating. Hour 48, 2 full days. If you have reached this point, you are likely experiencing significant hunger, dehydration, and exhaustion. Snow can be melted and consumed for water, which is critical. Dehydration in cold environments is a silent killer because the cold suppresses the sensation of thirst even as your body continues losing fluid through respiration. Every breath you exhale carries moisture out of your body. In cold, dry air, the respiratory water loss alone can accelerate dehydration faster than most people realize. Your extremities are at serious risk. Frostbite in exposed skin can occur within minutes at these temperatures, and in the extremities after hours of inadequate circulation. The tissue begins to freeze. Ice crystals form between cells. The damage is mechanical as well as thermal. This is permanent if left untreated, but your core is still fighting. Hour 72. The search team is coming. Whether you are alive when they arrive depends on decisions made across the 3 days before this moment. The people who survive 72-hour cold exposure share certain characteristics that have been studied extensively in survival medicine. They found or built shelter early. They ate snow only after melting it, to avoid dropping their core temperature further. They kept moving enough to generate heat without exhausting their caloric reserve. They stayed awake during the most dangerous temperature drop, typically overnight, when the combination of exhaustion and cold is at its most lethal. And perhaps most importantly, they believed they would survive. Psychologist John Leach at the University of Portsmouth has spent decades studying survival psychology, and his research consistently shows that the psychological response to crisis is as determinative as the physical one. People who freeze mentally, who enter what Leach calls the 10-90 rule, where 90% of people in a life-threatening situation do nothing useful in the first critical minutes, die at dramatically higher rates than those who act immediately. The will to survive is not a metaphor. It is a measurable variable with measurable consequence. Your body knows how to survive the cold. It has been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years. Your ancestors sat in Ice Age winters without synthetic insulation, without GPS, without rescue services, and they survived. They survived because the human body is a machine of extraordinary resilience, and because they acted, moved, found shelter, stayed together, and kept the fire burning for as long as they had fuel to burn it. The search team arrives at hour 72. Whether you are there to be found depends entirely on whether you trusted the machine your body is.